Welcome to AP1 Lecture 1, The Sciences of Anatomy and Physiology. Looking at anatomy, it is the study of the structure of the body, whereas physiology is the study of how the body functions. Take, for example, the stomach. An anatomist would look at the cells and the tissues that make up the stomach, whereas a physiologist would examine how they work together in order to carry out their function. Keep in mind that both structure and function are inseparable. That is, that anatomy determines physiology, and physiology will help to determine anatomy as well. Whenever you look at anatomy, there's a couple different ways to study it. One is by microscopic anatomy. That is where you are observing structures that you cannot see with the unaided eye. Therefore, we need things like microscopes in order to see them. It has two main divisions: cytology, which is the study of body cells and how they're made up, and histology, which is the study of tissues. On the opposite side, we have gross anatomy, or macroscopic anatomy. It investigates things that we can see with the unaided eye. This is most commonly what you think of with dissections. It can be approached in several different ways. You can look at it through systemic anatomy, which is looking at the anatomy of each functional body system. You can do things like look at comparative anatomy, which is examining similarities and differences in anatomy of different species. Embryology, where we are looking at the developmental changes from conception to birth in an anatomical sense. We have a couple specialized branches, one being pathologic anatomy, patho meaning disease. That is examining how disease affects anatomical changes. And you can also have radiographic anatomy. That is where we are using scanning procedures to visualize internal structures, such as X-ray or CAT scanning or even MRI. When you are examining physiology, it is generally broken up based on the particular body system that you are trying to study. An example would be cardiovascular physiology, where you are examining the heart, the blood vessels, and the blood. Another example could be neurophysiology, where you are examining the functioning of the nerves and the nervous system organs. Or even, again, pathophysiology, patho meaning disease, and that is examining how disease will affect the functioning of a particular system. Don't forget that anatomy and physiology are interrelated. They cannot be separated. As an example, if you were to examine the alveoli of the lungs, you would notice that their structure is such that they have a thin outer wall. And this thin outer wall promotes gas exchange. It promotes the exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen between the alveoli and the blood. In this example, this is a figure depicting the kinds of structures that anatomists would focus on. And here we can see that we are observing the digestive system, and they are looking at the particular structures that are contained within. You can see it focusing here on the villi or microvilli within the small intestine, and then you can see them going even smaller down into the microscopic size, hitting the cell and organelles. Finally, physiologists would look at slightly different things even within the same structure. Here we still have the small intestine, but physiologists are more concerned about how it accomplishes what it does. For example, here we have peristalsis, that is the rhythmic contraction of the small intestine to force food along its length. Another example would be here where they are looking at the particular organic macromolecules, proteins, carbohydrates, and fat, and how they are broken down by the structures of the small intestine.